Entrega de paquetes.
Thanks, but what is it?
No lo sé, pero escuché que es algo especial.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Por supuesto. Tenga un buen día.
I wonder what this could be. No way. Oh, hell yes. Now, there are tons of visual novels out there that I haven't played yet or are on my wish list so that I can actually read them. But for today's video, I want to go back to one specific visual novel. One visual novel that I consider to be perfect. Of course, I'm talking about Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai. Now you're probably thinking, Lucky, you've already talked about this visual novel in a previous video. Why are you talking about this again? Well, that's true, but I want to talk about it again because I want to talk about the definitive version of the visual novel. And that being Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition. Released in June 25th, 2021, exclusively on the PC, this is Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition, the definitive version of the original visual novel, developed and published by Toneworks. Now, before we actually talk about the Perfect Edition, let's take a look at this specific theme. Ain't she a beaut? This right here is the physical copy of Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition. Released alongside the digital edition, they also released a limited edition version that contains more goodies. The box is so smooth to touch, like this is a very classy PC box. Of course, we got the main girls on the cover, and flipping it around, we get more info on the visual novel, and little peeks at some of the CGs. Opening up the box, we get a technical manual, the user guide, and the game itself that comes in 2 discs. And finally, the game score soundtrack, with this only being available to get in the Perfect Edition. And owning a piece of Hoshi Ori, it's really cool, to be honest. It's just a really cool thing to finally own in my collection. Now, of course, this is only going to be me talking about the new stuff that was added to the Perfect Edition. I'm not going to be talking about the whole VN again, because I've already made a video on that. So, let's just get on with the review, no? Let's take a look at Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition. We now arrive at the first new theme that was added to the Perfect Edition, and it's hidden in the title screen. And that addition is the route selection. Now, this was introduced back in Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Converted Edition, which was released for the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4. The route selection is unlocked once you completed one of the routes, basically any of the 6 routes. This allows players to replay the routes they completed in both the school arc and the after story arc. And you can replay the prologue, and you can start from the very beginning as well. Of course, you have to understand that once you select your choice, you will replay that part of the story from the very beginning. This is honestly a great addition to the novel. The original version of the visual novel didn't have a route selection, and for readers who just want to restart their story once again from the very beginning, they can replay that route once again. But if you want to watch a specific part of the story or specific chapter, you might want to save that specific moment if you want to go back and read it again. Now, this isn't a new addition, as this was also available to use in the original version of Hoshi Ori, but I just want to get this over with. You can use the in-game phone by hovering the cursor to the right side of the screen. Click the phone icon and you'll pull out your in-game phone. the in-game phone is more so a little cute theme just for show. You can open up the phone app, your contacts app, but you can't use it all since it's only for show. You have the Pictures album app and your camera app, which you can actually take pictures of your screen or at what you're looking at right now. And you can view them in the Picture albums app, which is really cute. I mean, even if it's just for show, it's a little cute thing that the developers did that wasn't really necessary. However, this is a new addition. The choice of either going through an H scene or not. When you're getting close to viewing an H scene, you'll sometimes get the chance to choose if you want to go through it and watch it, or you can choose not to and continue on with the cutesy romantic atmosphere. From what I can see, this was inspired by Hoshi Ori Converted Edition, since, the Converted Edition did include sexy scenes, since, PlayStation can allow super sexy content on their consoles. Of course, in some parts of the routes, you do have to view the H scenes if you want to continue the story. I mean, I'm not complaining. That's awesome! Yes! Give me more Rikka scenes! Let's go! Anyways, the next new addition is the newly added scenes. These scenes were added from the Converted Edition, and seeing them on the PC, they simply look beautiful. Of course, not only they added scenes from the Converted Edition, but the Perfect Edition does include some new scenes as well. I've already said that the art for the visual novel is absolutely breathtaking, but this is art right here. Much of the newly added scenes is basically more cutesy romantic fluff, which I love especially. It just adds more cute romance to an already romantic atmosphere. But besides the newly added scenes, we also get a new after story for two specific routes, those routes being Rikka and Toko. None of the others get an after story, which is interesting to say the least, because I really do think the others do deserve an after story. Finally, we arrive at the final new addition to Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition. And what's funny is that you probably already noticed the new addition. If you haven't yet, then allow me to tell you. It's the graphics. The Perfect Edition has fully upgraded the graphics of Hoshi Ori to 1080p HD, as the original version of the visual novel was only shown in 720p. This is a huge step up from the original version. The novel looks so much more cleaner and colorful. Much of the designs and backgrounds and colors were given a clean look, which makes everything pop out more. It's definitely really refreshing to see if you played the original version first, and I was just shocked by how amazing everything looked. This was definitely a fantastic upgrade. And that was Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai Perfect Edition. Basically put, this is the definitive version of the visual novel. With the newly added scenes, more ways to play through the routes, and the entire visual novel now in 1080p HD, perfection definitely returned in a big way. And Hoshi Ori Perfect Edition is the best way to play this beloved visual novel. Alright, but before we can move on to the main attraction of this video, the one part of the video where I'm truly excited to finally talk about, let's take a look at this. This right here is the Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai vocal collection. This is a collection of all the vocal songs that Hoshi Ori has, and it's phenomenal. Much of the vocal songs are simply wonderful, with each song fitting each character extremely well. Some of the songs being Song of Love, which is Marika's ending song, and sung by Sasaki Sayaka. Another song is A Happy Place by Duka, which is Toko's ending song. These songs are amazing, and again, this is such a cool part of Hoshi Ori to own. Anyways, I went off topic for too long now. Let's get to the main attraction of this video. Let's talk about my favorite character in Hoshi Ori, who is also on the cover of the vocal collection, Rikka Narusawa. Rikka is simply a precious character for me, and her route is simply one of a kind. So let's talk about her story. But before we continue on, I just have to point out that from this point forward, we're going to be going into spoilers. So if you haven't played Hoshi Ori Yume Mirai yet, or if you haven't finished Rikka's route, then I suggest you stop watching this video and go play her route right now. Once you finish her route, come back here and resume watching. So, with that being said, 3, 2, 1, let's talk about Rikka Narusawa. Let's go over Rikka's story. You'll first meet her as you head to your first day of class where you sit next to her. The only thing you can do is really introduce yourself as you sat down in your new seat. While he never got to know her name, Ryosuke wants to know her name because he wants to try and become friends with her. And soon, he asks for her name, Rikka Narusawa. A few days later, after joining the event committee, you'll walk around with Marika and Natsuki doing committee work. And soon, you hear the sounds of someone playing the piano. Heading to the music room, you see Rikka quietly playing the piano. Her fingers dance over the keys like a figure skater gliding over ice as you hear her music. Here you find out from Natsuki that Rikka's parents are both famous musicians, with her dad being a conductor and her mom being a pianist, as well as finding out that she has a younger sister who also plays piano. But behind her relaxed expression while she plays the piano, Ryosuke notices one thing behind that same expression. She occasionally seems sad. You'll soon talk with her for a bit due to Natsuki's and Marika's clumsiness, but most of her responses seem cold-hearted and short, almost like you're bothering her. And one question sticks in Ryosuke's mind: why is she playing piano after school alone? You'll soon find out from your friends that she barely ever talked with anyone last school year, and that she looks alone due to her family being overseas right now. In another day, Ryosuke finds Rikka in the same room eating lunch and decides to join her, but even as you sit down near her and start eating your lunch, she doesn't start any conversations. She's only eating silently, but luckily you are able to start a conversation with her lunch, and finding out that she usually makes her own lunches and is great at cooking. To which she says, "It wasn't something I consciously chose to become good at. It was just necessary." But Ryosuke was at least able to soften the quiet silence in the room. He does ask why she plays piano alone, but yet again, she gives a vague and cold-hearted answer to him. A few days pass and one day you forget to pack your math homework. So as Ryosuke walks back to the school, you once again hear the sounds of the piano being played. You check the music room to see Rikka playing again. She gives you yet again another cold-hearted response as you tell her that the school will be closing, so you let her resume playing. Only this time, you take a seat near the piano and listen to her music. However, due to this, you fall asleep. But luckily Rikka waited until you woke up, even though she doesn't want to admit that she did. So the two of you walk home together even if she didn't want you to walk her home. And even if you wanted to start a conversation with her, she'll quickly answer your question and end the conversation. However, she'll slowly give in and chat with Ryosuke, and soon you'll both part ways. Few days pass again and you invite the girls, specifically Marika, Sora, Natsuki, and Misa on a camping trip to deepen their friendship. As you head to the marketplace, you soon meet up with Natsuki as the two of you notice Rikka walking around the marketplace. However, Rikka will soon notice you and Natsuki following her, and Natsuki will ask Rikka if she wants to go to the camping trip with Ryosuke and the others. Of course, she turns her down even if Ryosuke tells her it could be fun since they could get to know each other more. However, on the day of the camping trip, she does show up, but only to give Ryosuke a bag containing a missing item for dinner they were supposed to cook. But just as soon as she could leave, the bus arrives and Ryosuke basically grabs Rikka's hand and takes her inside, and so she's now part of the trip. As everyone helps out with making curry, you help out Rikka with cooking the curry. Doing so makes Rikka talk with Ryosuke in a more casual way, leading to a nice talk with each other along with a small growth in the relationship. And as you play a game with the girls, where you guess what person, animal, or object is on your hidden drawing, you're finding it difficult to guess what your picture is. You can either choose 3 choices. Choosing Mozart will actually shock Rikka as the hidden drawing was a hand-drawn portrait of Mozart, which she drew. Plus, it'll make Rikka know that you're also a fan of classical music. Finally, before the common route ends, for the first time ever, you hear Rikka singing as she sits by the river kicking the water with her feet.
Na 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 na.
You also learn that her sister's name is Meguru, who is an up-and-coming pianist. And as the two of you have a nice conversation about her family and music in general, she accidentally slips and falls into the water. Even as she is completely wet, she laughs through it as Ryosuke tries to lighten the mood. And soon, with a warm smile, she says thank you to him. Until she is soon embarrassed by her revealing clothes due to the wetness of the water. It is here where you begin Rikka's route. Most of the main focus of her route revolves around Ryosuke wanting to continue to expand his relationship with her and get more closer to her. After seeing a simple picture of Rikka smiling, he slowly starts to grow feelings for her. Before he could turn in his committee report, Ryosuke once again sees Rikka in the music room once again. Although while Rikka seems relaxed, he finds it lonely that no one is there with her. While Ryosuke finds it difficult to understand if his feelings are love or friendship, he does have one goal: to make Rikka smile more often. He does ask Rikka if he wants to join the committee, but Rikka believes it's just because of him seeing how pitiful she looks when she's alone. She chooses to be alone. She chooses not to socialize. But Ryosuke says one thing that surprises Rikka. He's happy that she was able to enjoy the camping trip. And with that, Rikka will think about joining the committee. With the help of Natsuki, Ryosuke tries to get closer to Rikka. And here's where you learn a bit more about her. How when she was little, she usually just went home and practiced piano. She didn't have time to play or call a friend, but she isn't dissatisfied with this, as she chose to practice piano. How she is a pro at sewing, how she sometimes can't play certain songs, how she's a great cook. All the while, Rikka as well is very slowly growing feelings for him, even though she just wants to be alone. She's also as well socializing more and more with the girls. All the while, Ryosuke and his friends are preparing for the Tanabata festival. With each interaction, Rikka and Ryosuke's feelings for each other will grow and grow, often leading to embarrassing yet adorable moments. Even your friends will take notice of this slowly growing relationship. You'll also learn a bit more of her family as well, especially her mom and her sister, as she later fully joins the committee and helps out the concert team. Plus, you'll soon get to visit Rikka's home with all the girls while she'll lecture the gang about music. And you'll get a peek at her sister, Meguru, who tells Rikka that she's coming back. Although, Rikka herself seems to be off-put by this news. Soon, Ryosuke now understands that he's fallen in love with Rikka. And one day, when Rikka was looking down and sad, Ryosuke takes her to the beach and explains to her how the waves of the ocean always calms him down, and that it should help her calm herself down as well. Here is where you learn of Rikka's weaknesses, that she doesn't feel confident about her piano playing. And when Misa and Sora want Rikka to play piano in the festival, she feels that she doesn't have the right for that. She feels doubts. But Ryosuke tells her this: it's not about whether they expect something from you or not. What they want is your piano playing, pure and simple. He then holds his hand out for Rikka as they play in the water, where she smiles and laughs happily, forgetting any doubts or worries in this gorgeous CG, and accepting to play for Misa and Sora, with Ryosuke helping her throughout the festival. Later, Natsuki will talk with Rikka about Ryosuke. This scene overall confirms that Rikka has fallen in love with him. It's a very sweet scene as it shows how deep Rikka is with her feelings and how she's trying her best to stay calm, even going as far as to make a homemade lunch for Ryosuke. It's the little things that make these scenes adorable. But finally, after much resisting, and with the help of the girls, the two finally went out on a date. And as the date continues, Ryosuke finds out that it's her birthday today. So, along with the girls, they celebrate her birthday. It also leads to a little emotional yet very sweet scene where Rikka explains she hasn't had a birthday party in a long time, and how she never thought it would be this bright and happy. Finally, when it's all said and done, the girls soon left, leaving only Ryosuke and Rikka, with Ryosuke finally telling her that he likes her and giving Rikka a beautiful moonstone necklace as a gift for her birthday, which she happily accepts. The following chapters are basically just romantic fluff now that Ryosuke and Rikka are a full-on couple. You'll see how they truly love each other, how they experience their first kiss, how their dates will go, and of course, how they're going to unleash their sweet love physically. All the while, the festival is slowly coming together and is almost ready for launch. Soon, as the festival finally approaches, Rikka's little sister Meguru has returned home to perform at the festival. But as the festival talk continues, an idea pops up. Rikka is given the choice to perform a duet with her sister, but her reaction is the exact opposite of Meguru, and she says she wants to think about it. And this is where the drama begins. You slowly start to see why Rikka acted like herself in the beginning of the novel. Even Meguru knows the reason why Rikka doesn't want to play with her. As she says, "It's because of me." Even Ryosuke can tell that Rikka seems to be bothered by something. He asks her, but she deflects the question, with Ryosuke going so far as to ask her, "Am I not dependable enough for you?" Then, a hurricane hits Shionagi, leaving Rikka alone in her home as Meguru is in Tokyo. And after getting a call from Rikka that seems to sound like as if she's hiding something from him. And so, Ryosuke decides to do one thing: walk to Rikka's home during the hurricane. Here is where you learn more about Rikka's weaknesses. She believes she's weak, and she feels lonely and scared when she's alone. She now sees the importance of coming to know the joy of being connected with someone, and she wants to get rid of her miserable feelings, but she can't. Ryosuke then arrives to save Rikka, while she happily cries at his arrival, thanking him for saving her. Here is where we learn Rikka's backstory. She and Meguru had a dream, where they would become professional pianists and perform together. But for Rikka, she loved to play because she liked to see people smile, but also explains that the pianist path grows difficult as you have to fight your way through the world of winners and losers. She would be placed higher than Meguru, but Meguru had talent that she didn't have. While she explains, you also get a peek at her past. You now see why she doesn't want Meguru to surpass her, and she doesn't want her to catch up. It's why you find out that she's envious to her sister. She then tells Ryosuke how Meguru finally surpassed her, and how she had to watch from the sidelines. Even if they played duos, she didn't want to play with her because she didn't want to drag Meguru down with her. She also explains how the judges would heavily criticize her, and one day she heard the comments, especially one comment: "There are things that you can never obtain, no matter how much you want them." After that, she stopped entering contests, and while Meguru tried to help Rikka out, it just never worked out in the end. She tells Ryosuke, "I love Meguru, but I couldn't love her in regards to piano." This is also the reason why she didn't want to join Meguru overseas, and why she stayed here alone. Rikka is afraid that the audience will look at her the same way the disappointing judges looked at her, and how they might compare her negatively to Meguru. She's scared, but she can't give up on piano, because she loves it. Ryosuke then explains how he went through a similar fate with his architect studies. He failed and failed, but that didn't want him to give up. He also tells her it's thanks to her that he's now a fan of music and piano. Soon, thanks to her explanation and with the help of the girls giving confidence and strength to Rikka, she decides to play a duo performance with her sister. And so, after days of practicing with Meguru, the day of the performance finally arrives along with the festival. But as the festival continues smoothly, Rikka soon reveals that she wants to cancel her performance with Meguru. Her reason is that she could play with Meguru again whenever they have time. But after talking with a band member, she says there are people who might have to part ways, and she wants those people to take it to the stage. While the girls and Meguru are completely against this, Ryosuke accepts it as he says that's just how strongly Rikka feels about this. But while he respects her feelings, he doesn't want to give up on her. So, with the help of his friends and help from the townspeople, they were able to convince the teachers to let Rikka and Meguru play one last show. And so, the two finally do their long-awaited duo performance. They both happily dance alone in the stillness of their world, like a shooting star that's fallen down from the heavens. The two cry of joy together as they play their song. After the performance, we get one last CG of Ryosuke and Rikka enjoying the festival while the two talk about their future. But they both agree on one thing that will continue on in the future. They'll both still be in love with each other. We now move on to Rikka's after story. To summarize the after story, this is basically more romantic fluff with both Ryosuke and Rikka. The two are now fully grown adults, having graduated from their school and now move in together. Rikka has now returned to study music and wants to work towards becoming a professional pianist again, while Ryosuke is still focusing on his architect studies. You'll see how their love continues to grow strong and how supportive they are to each other. And it all leads up to their marriage and her big performance. Before playing her last song, she shares one last speech before she plays her song. She thanks all the girls for meeting her and believing in her. She thanks her parents and sister for cheering her on. And she thanks Ryosuke for everything that he's done for her, supporting her, and what she says, I have been allowed to walk a very wonderful path. She concludes her speech with one last announcement. She shares to the audience that she's pregnant with her and Ryosuke's baby. And so, she plays her song as the credits roll. And that song is the same song you've been hearing throughout the entire route. And it's called To a Precious Someone. As the credits finish, the final scene of Rikka's story is a picture of her mom, sister, and herself practicing piano. Soon, it transitions to a picture of Rikka and her two twin daughters, Ayane and Sakane, playing the piano, with Rikka teaching them like how her mom used to teach her, while Ryosuke is in the background making dinner and explaining what happened after the performance. And the route ends with Rikka saying that she is happy with everything that has happened to her life, and that she's thankful of meeting Ryosuke. Now that's how the route would have ended in the original version of the visual novel, but in the Perfect Edition, the after story continues. Very shortly though, as it's basically, again, more romantic fluff between the two. You also learn that Rikka is the creator of, quite possibly, the most iconic song in the Hoshi Ori score soundtrack. And that song is Wish Upon a Star. And the route officially ends with a CG of Ryosuke hugging Rikka on the same beach they had their first kiss, with Rikka telling Ryosuke, thank you for giving her such a wonderful life and meeting her. And that was Rikka's route. And I'm not gonna lie when I say this, but this is one of the best routes in any visual novel that I've ever read. Rikka's route was simply incredible to read through. And you guys already know I love these types of visual novels and routes, so this was simply a treat for me to read. The best thing about her route is the character development of Rikka. Throughout the entire route, you can see how much of a difference Rikka acts and behaves from the beginning of the novel to the end of the novel. She was this cold-hearted and very reserved person who didn't want to socialize and wanted to be alone. Any interaction with her would basically be nothing to her. She couldn't smile or express herself to others. That isn't until Ryosuke comes into her life. He was able to drag her out of her lonely corner and into a bright world. With his help, his words, and his support, Rikka slowly started to express herself more and socialize with the girls. And also, and more importantly for Ryosuke, she was able to smile more often. And once the two finally became a couple, she is now much more happier than ever before. And even if she goes back to her old roots when her sister arrives at the festival, Ryosuke goes to comfort her and support her when she needed it the most, helping her get over her strong worries and play with her sister. Now fully breaking away from her worries, now you see how relived, talkative, and most of all, happy she is now. It's an extremely satisfying thing as you read her route, and it makes all the effort of the characters worth it. And she's now a much more open person. Another thing I like about her route was the drama and the themes. Rikka's route deals with the theme of self-actualization, as she wants to achieve her dream of being a piano player, and the novel shows how a single review can hurt or damage a person's dream, as well as believing that someone is better than you. The drama is executed greatly, and it fits her character extremely well. It's also not too long or too short. It's the perfect balance of drama that is emotional, yet it satisfies you, with its resolution. The drama also shows how far Rikka grew as a character. Not only is she choosing to following her dream, but she's doing whatever it takes to achieve it. Also, the execution of this route is beautiful. Much of the route knows when to take it romantic, when to take it seriously, and when to take it emotionally. And when each new scene or new part of the story is shown, it knows how to execute it well. Ryosuke in this route is a perfect example of how I believe he's one of the best MCs in any visual novel I've ever read. A true example of a boy who genuinely cares, supports, and loves his friends and his special someone. He goes as far as to walk in a hurricane to save his girlfriend from her feelings. He not only wants to help her get through her feelings, but to help her achieve her dream. Rikka's voice actor, played by Ono Ryoko, did an absolutely phenomenal job with her role as Rikka, delivering a heartfelt and passionate performance, not only showing the personality of Rikka, but also bringing this character to life. She's one of my favorite VAs, and I highly recommend checking her out in other roles, as she plays Amane from If My Heart Had Wings and Karen from Making Lovers, both of which she did an amazing job with their roles. Rikka's vocal songs are simply phenomenal. To a Precious Someone is one of my favorite songs in the vocal collection. It's a song that really makes you cry but also smile as you view your young life and see the things that made you happy. It's a perfect example for Rikka's character as you see how her character changed throughout the story. And for her after story, it's simply beautiful. And like I said before, these routes especially are my favorite. One that details how the future of these two are like and seeing what has changed now that they're full-on adults. The romantic fluff is the cherry on top for me, as that is always a joy for me to see. Plus, with the new scenes added in the Perfect Edition, as well as the expanded after story, what they've done is something truly special. And of course, it satisfied me completely. And the final shot of Rikka and her twin daughters, as you see her talking with them while practicing piano, to me, it really was an extremely emotional, yet satisfying way to end her route. Now fully happy with how her life turned out. Rikka's route is simply one of a kind. It's a route I never thought I would be in love so easily and quickly. From its beautiful music, well-executed story and themes, satisfying conclusion, and most of all, a perfect example of great character development. Rikka Narusawa is my favorite character in Hoshi Ori, and this is the story of a ridiculously awkward, incredibly kind, demanding crybaby who gets lonely all too easily. She sought out connections, she took their hands, and was able to form a ring. That's the kind of story this is. Whether it's the romance, drama, or development, nothing will ever compare to her. To me, she is the perfect example of perfection. And so, we made it to the end. I honestly never expected to fall madly in love with her and her story. Rikka Narusawa is probably one of my favorite characters in any visual novel. Not saying much, honestly. So, yeah. We finally talked about Rikka's story. Now, this isn't the end of Hoshi Ori. Oh no. We're going to be talking about the other girls as well. We're going to be talking about their roots and their stories and their themes. Of course, this is only part 1 of this series. Next up, we're going to be talking about our favorite childhood friend, Marika. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and show some support for the video and the channel by giving it a like and subscribe. Thank you.